Jenny, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
No, it's wicked. We've had a little chat beforehand, and we've realised that we're very, very similar personalities. So it's always nice to be speaking to someone that's on a very similar
Yeah,
level.
it is.
But it's really always interesting for me to ever get a chance to chat with people that play on both sides of the fence in terms of like the coach and you're an athlete yourself, because I think that
Hmm.
brings a very, very interesting dynamic to the page. But I understand, like, you talk about it as well, like you didn't have like the traditional entry into like the strength sports world and whatever, but you kind of got hooked and addicted very, very quickly when you entered this space, and you actually had an incredibly fast rise to the high levels in
Yeah.
strongwoman, like absolutely incredible to see. So kind of take me through. I mean, I know you did your it was kickboxing and stuff beforehand and whatever, that
Yeah.
kind of got you into the gym space, and then it kind of evolved from there. But what do you kind of feel just gave you that edge coming into these competitions? Because you fucking smoked some of those early comps like big time.
I don't know really. I guess like a solid background, not a solid background, but a solid foundation built with bodybuilding kind of style training. I managed to pack on a reasonably decent amount of muscle before I started pursuing like the strength part of it. And I guess a supportive network around me. You know, my boyfriend at the time was programming me, and we were training partners, and he was very enthusiastic about it. Like he was a big, strong man, and I believe that strongman or powerlifting was something that he really wanted to pursue in his younger days, and he was able to kind of live it through me. So he had my back, and he supported me through it all, and he encouraged me, and yeah. I couldn't have got as far as I did without him, because I wouldn't have even stepped foot in a gym if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think that's quite nice that you can come into that space and kind of share that with someone else, and especially when that other person has like a little bit more knowledge than you, and they can kind of take the reins a little bit. It
Yeah,
allows you then to really enjoy the process of falling in love with weightlifting. And I
yeah,
kind of feel like for a very certain personality type, and I know that we're very similar, so I know that we're the exact same, is that when you start doing it and you see those results, it's like a fucking drug, man. Like
yeah,
it's crazy what it does to
yeah.
your brain,
It
and it just
is.
becomes so addictive. And I think it's really, really interesting to kind of see how that then progresses, and you start looking for those, like, the different stimulus, because anyone knows that like having a sick pump up bodybuilding session feels great, but it's nothing compared to the high of being in like competition. You're
Yeah.
neck and neck, first place and second place with someone else, and it's coming all down to that
Hmm.
last event. Like, that's then like that next level
Hmm.
up. So coming into competing, how did you find it? Because it's a big change in dynamic from training in the gym with just your partner. Do you know what I mean? Then there's that
Yeah.
competitive element. Were you hyper competitive? Are you super hyper competitive at
Um,
stage?
Kind of. I mean, yes and no. I'd never really kind of got a taste for it previous to Strong Woman. I did have two kickboxing fights, but they didn't go very well. And yes, I was hungry to win, but at the cost of, the integrity of my face. I wasn't that fussed about it.
Yeah,
And even leading up to that in school, I wasn't very competitive. I wasn't very good at sports, so I just wasn't bothered. But I found something that I was actually good at, and that in itself is encouraging, and it's uplifting. So you do kind of get hungry for more and for competition and doing better and beating certain people when you know that you're actually fucking good at something for a change.
yeah, yeah. 100%. I think that's it as well, isn't it? It's like we like to double down on the shit that we're good at too. So like
Yeah.
moving on from that, when you first came into it, like I know you're a fucking strong all round athlete, 100%. But coming in the early days, was there anything that really floored you as an athlete that you're like, I just fucking cannot get around this implement or medley or whatever it might have been?
I mean, I'm quite technically minded, so I like to look at things and analyze things with thoughtful pursuit. But the one thing that really fucked me over was yoke carries. I've never made friends with them. A skinny frame, a tall frame as well. You know, I've got really long legs and I'm prone to back injuries, so we were just not friends. I never understood it. I don't understand how people can do so fucking well at it. You know, watching Kristen Rhodes bombing it down the fucking lane with a 300 kilo yoke on her
Yeah,
back.
it's like both feet have left the ground at the same time. Like she's almost running with it, and you're like,
Aye. It's
fuck it.
insane. I just don't understand. I've never been able to wrap my head around that. You're either built for a certain event or you're not. And you can kind of cheat your way around certain things, but if you don't have the leverages in the right kind of ratio, and if you don't have the mass supporting that massive weight that's on your back, then you can't cheat it. There's no technique in the world that's gonna cheat you around that, you know.
Yeah, no techers ever cheats you around
No, it's
biomechanics.
not
It just doesn't
snatch.
work. It just doesn't work
Heavy
like that.
yoke carry.
As a 6'8" man, I can preach that myself. That leverage is like a big thing. It's like when it takes me 4.5 hours to hit depth on my fucking squat, and someone else has already done like 20 reps. I'm like, I'll be there in a second, guys. Don't worry. It's coming down from like 200-meter altitude. So obviously you came into the scene. You blasted to the top. What was the year frame from entry to Arnold's? Was it in the space of like 3 years, 2 years, something crazy like that?
2013 was my first competition, and
Okay.
I qualified for Arnold's 2016, I believe, and I competed at 2017. So yeah, it was a quick turnaround. Maybe I even qualified in 2015. I'm not sure. I qualified a year previous or 2 years previous, and
I want to say
had to
that
pull
the
out due
Arnold's
to
was
a back injury.
2017, so maybe it was a
Yeah.
was it 4 year? Yeah. I mean, even then, that's crazy. Tell me what does that do for you mentally? Because I know kind of you spoke previously that you're kind of a lot more extroverted now compared to how you used to be. Like, and this is kind of this is the journey that you've been on, but kind of when you rise so fast and you get so many eyes on you, it can be really, really daunting. I feel like if you're not used to that, if you're not used to being in the spotlight, if you don't necessarily like that, then it can kind of be a very, very weird dynamic. So how did you handle that kind of rise up to quote unquote fame, if you will, mentally? Because I feel like that's like a lot of people don't necessarily talk about that. Like how did you feel in your own mind going through all of that? What did you learn from it? What did it teach you?
I guess it taught me to try and look a lot happier and be a little bit kinder in my words and stuff. Like I'm a kind person in general, but I'm very sarcastic and I've got a very dark sense of humor, so that a lot of things can get taken the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I would hate to upset somebody just because of something that was taken out of context that I've said. So I have had to learn to be a little bit wiser with my words. But I mean, with regards to dealing with a rise to fame, it's never really been a problem because I don't feel like I am. I've got like a 5,000 follower on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's dramatically famous. People at competitions I don't know who the fuck they are, but they'll come to me and they'll ask me for autographs or can I have a photo with you or can I just talk to you for a little bit? I'm like, yeah, this is weird, but it's always been weird and I've never really understood it. But people look up to who inspires them, and I guess because I don't really have anybody that is a hero of mine or a role model of mine or an inspiration in the sport, I don't really get it. The only one that is really pertinent is Donna, and she's a good friend of mine. So,
well, I think that kind of that skews it as well, though, doesn't it? Like it's funny because, of course, you being with her on such a consistent basis as well, and obviously she's an incredibly high level athlete like yourself. You just kind of it's like the norm. Do you know what I mean? It's the norm. But then when you go to like these expos and stuff, and it's like fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry that you have no idea existed, but has listened to everything you've ever put out, comes up and starts talking to you, and you're like, oh, this is different. Like, I'm just putting out stuff and being me and doing my shit, and people are like,
Yeah.
wow, I love it. And you're like, this is a strange dynamic. This is weird.
It's weird. It is weird.
Yeah.
I guess it has helped having Donna alongside me. You know, we've risen at the same time, and she's certainly taken the limelight. You know, obviously because she's fucking incredible, and I guess that's kind of made me realize, oh, this is okay. This is quite acceptable. She's comfortable with it, so I'm comfortable with my like 30% of the traffic that she gets.
Yeah, but I also think it's important to bring up like, and like, numbers is numbers and whatever. But I don't feel like it's necessarily about that. In terms of the followers that you have, I feel like you and Donna as well, like, you have a very loyal fan base that, like, they know who you are, they know what you're about, and they love your shit. Like, it's not like these guys that have 20, 30K, and it's just because they're posting fucking topless photos and
Yeah, yeah.
videos and showing this and showing that and whatever. Like, the people follow you, I feel like, are much more valuable than a lot of these other things. And I think there's something important to say about that it's not just all about the fucking numbers. And like, we can get caught up in that quite a bit, and I feel like, you know, when
We
you're in a
can, yeah.
sport, you do, because you're like, well, that competitor, like, I'm competing against them and I'm beating them, how the fuck have they got 10K more than me? Like, how have they got this brand sponsorship deal and I haven't? And I'm like, and because we're all on our phones all the time and social media, like, we just can't get away from it. Like, you can get sucked into that. So how have you found like that social side of things, that social media aspect? Obviously, back when you first started, it was nowhere near as important or as big as it is now. You
Yeah.
know, people build like entire franchises just off of the back of the shit they're doing on Instagram. Like, it's just crazy. So how did you find that?
What, in regards to
What?
comparing myself to other people?
Yeah.
It's not really something that I've ever done. I kind of trained that out of me when I was younger, and I'm not like anybody else really. So if I can't gain the followers that other people do, it really does not matter to me at all. I have an understanding of. I look at things logically, and I'm looking at Donna's following. Chloe Brennan's a good example because hers fucking shot up one year. You know,
She's doing amazing as well.
really gained popularity, and she's certainly gained strength and skill. So they're putting different things out there. They're more active on social media. There's more of a pull than there is with me, but it's not something that I'm seeking. So if I was to look at it and feel a sense of jealousy towards it, that's only my own doing, because I haven't worked like they have worked. I haven't achieved what they have achieved. And it's not a reflection on me as a person, the number of followers that I have. Like, I'm a certain kind of person, and I'm a certain taste for the public, and not everybody can stomach me. So
No, but I think but how crazy is that? I think that is the better way to be, is it not? Like, that is the way we should all view this stuff. But
I think
people
so.
don't. They don't at all. They genuinely get like upset about this kind of stuff, and you're like, hey, in the grand scheme of things, not that big of a deal. Not like
Doesn't matter, man.
we're talking about, like, we all have our limited amount of fucks to give in a day, and what you choose to spend that on is
Yeah,
really, really valuable. Like,
yeah.
we were kind of saying, like, we have very limited amounts to give, so like, we
Like,
don't want to be contributing that to all these other useless bits of
absolutely
shit
not, man.
from
No way.
today. So I love that you said that. That's absolutely brilliant. So I want to talk a little bit about the dynamic for you from the coaching and competing standpoint, because I know you spoke about previously when you went to the Arnolds that you found that in the run up to that, like, you found it hard because not only did you have the pressure of competing and obviously wanting to do well and programming yourself, but then you also had this fleet of high level athletes that are also competing at the similar standard or same competitions that you are. And just that, like, I know from a very limited amount of coaching I can do, like, that takes up a lot of mental headspace, because not only are you thinking about all of your sort of stuff, you're thinking about all of their stuff as well.
Yeah.
You're constantly trying to make amendments, and it takes up a lot of space up here. So I know you kind of, I'm right in saying that you sort out programming coming into right in the latter stages of the Arnolds, just to kind of
Yeah.
give yourself some headspace. So can we talk about that for a second? Like, how did you find that? How was it handing that off to someone else and being able to gain that headspace back? What did it do for your training? What did it do for your coaching?
I'm not gonna lie, it was difficult for me to ask. I mean, I struggle to ask for help at the best of times, but certainly when I'm really feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders, it's a strange phenomenon. You know, when you're really struggling, that's when you're least prepared to ask for help. Um,
That's
and
so
certainly,
true.
and certainly, like putting trust in somebody else when I had been the sole reason why I got to where I was. So, was it going to work? Of course, it's going to work. You know, it's standard shit. Um, it's just organizing training, and passing it to somebody else means that they can actually take a deeper look into what I'm missing. I would probably be less likely to add certain things in that I didn't enjoy doing but were necessary. So a lot of conditioning style training occurred, much to my displeasure. But yeah, Jack was great. You know, my former employer, Jack Lovett, he he's been doing it for so long, and yeah, absolutely. Like, I learned pretty much everything that I did about programming from him, or at least he pointed me in every direction that I went in. So of course it was going to work, and it was a massive relief. It was a huge relief because I totally neglected myself. Um, yeah, I was burying myself pretty much. Just I had more concern with doing the right thing for my athletes than for myself, and knowing that I was going over there and there was, you know, a lot riding on it. There was a lot of people that expected good things from me and expected a good result. Of course, in hindsight, that doesn't matter, but at the time, it really, really matters to me. Um, so, yeah, it was a massive relief. It was the best decision I could have made at that time. I wish I could have been able to say, I am the only reason why I got to where I did, you know, from my programming and my own training and my own brain and my own um, body. But no, in the latter stages of it, it was solely down to my effort and Jack's brain. So yeah, I'm really appreciative for that.
It's funny that you say that, like you almost feel like you've done like disjustice to yourself, like in doing that.
Well, I was
Which
so
is
close to the end, man, and then I just fucking threw it away right at the end. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're like, I won it, so
yeah, exactly. Like that's why I love, like, you're getting really down about, like, you came away with the win. Like, it doesn't matter at all, but you're
no, it
still like
doesn't.
just a little bit of sourness in there. Like, I love that about you. That's fucking brilliant. So I was saying, yeah, like now, or even post Arnold's, including till up until current time, do you ever have someone in the background doing bits and pieces for you programming wise, or are you going? Are you trying to go just by yourself with any program that you're doing now? Like, is that, have you drawn the line?
I kind of have, yeah. Like, something changed when I stopped competing, and that was the goals had ended. My goals had always been this date, this competition. That was always my what I was working towards. It didn't really matter about programming. It still doesn't, because I don't really train like I used to. Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's an important point to make as well, is that for a lot of people, well, a lot of strength competitors, like you said, like your next goal is whatever the fuck is in that competition. Like, there is no, like,
mm,
there is no strong man, strong woman, like, long-term athlete development plan that is like from year 1 to year 10, and these are all the checkpoints. It's like, okay, well, what events are in this, and what are events are in this, and are these events suited to me,
yeah,
and then you go from that to that to that. So I think even when you're programming yourself, you can end up narrowing and really pigeonholing down what you want to do, because and again, even in the more amateur leagues, I guess there are so many competitions going on that you can pick and choose the events that best suit you and your strengths, and just kind of bunny hop and bunny hop and bunny hop. But then, of course, then when you get to the big leagues and you come across an event that you suck at, it's like, well, I'm just going to have to suck eggs on this one. But I know, because you qualified for England's, was it this year?
I did. It was last year, so yeah.
Yeah, but then there was a few issues with like patellar tendonitis and knee issues and stuff that kind of stopped you moving forward with that, right?
I believe that was probably just a little transmission from my brain saying you don't actually want to fucking do this, so here's an injury to stop you and give you an excuse to pull out. I'm not interested anymore. I don't know why I keep doing this to myself, but it's like I think and I feel like I need competition and I need that sport, but I'm done with it. Like, I enjoy coaching other people and helping them achieve what they want to achieve, or helping them get to where I was or beyond that, and that's really thrilling and it's very fulfilling for me. But I don't get fulfillment from me doing it anymore. I'm more in a stage of like trying to find what I actually want to do with my body, you know. In sport, I still am a very active person and I enjoy being active. So that's really where I'm at. And yeah, training for me at the moment is just kind of trying to stay above average strength and look kind of like a warrior. So that's where I'm at. And I took up golf. I took up golf in the summer and I've really enjoyed that because it's been a different mental challenge for me. Yeah.
That's some like 3D
you know.
chess shit is golf with the mental state of things. That baffles me.
It's bonkers. I don't even want to try and understand the fucking language that they seem to speak and the rules and stuff. I don't understand the game at all. I'm just trying to learn how to swing a fucking club and hit a ball consistently. Yeah. And then maybe try and get it to go in a straight line, and then maybe try and hit it into a hole, you know, these things. I've got a coach, so Michael's pointing me in the right direction, and you know, I'm not a dumbass. I know if I want to enjoy something, I'm gonna have to get the right instruction, and
I'm gonna pass responsibility on to you.
Absolutely, give it to somebody else. If you want to take up a new hobby, I think it's to get enjoyment from a certain activity or a certain pursuit, but you can't enjoy something that you're shit at. You know, if you're just burying your head in the sand and constantly digging. No, I can't.
I can't do that either. It drives me fucking crazy. That's actually why I had to step away from playing golf, because it was kind of it was driving me mad. That
I saw one post on your Instagram. I saw one post of you swinging a fucking club.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Okay.
Yeah, like but again, because it's such a mental game, and I'm someone that get like, if I'm not good at something, there's nothing I fucking hate more than being bad at something. And like, it's the most toxic way to think about things.
It's awful, yeah, but we're both victims of that.
Yeah, but I hate it, and it's like when I get it a couple of times, and it's like the thing with golf is like, as soon as you think you've got it, you haven't fucking got it, and you're like, yeah, I'm good, and then you start thinking about it, and then it's like, and then you hit fucking 20 shank shots, and you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna go home. My elbows hurt, my soul hurts, my pride hurts. But it's really interesting point, because I think not many people talk about this. Like, when people step down from high level competition, like, I think people tend to turn in like two different directions. Like, they'll just keep on looking for like different things that they can do. Mm-hmm. And they'll just kind of go down that route of trying everything and anything because they just want to keep active, and that is the hungry part of them. Or you have the people that were in it just for the competition and just for that high, that come at the back end and then they just fucking gain like 10 stone, like they just become content with doing fucking nothing anymore, and they're just happy with their lives. So I think it's interesting, because I know you speak about the fact you have quite an obsessive personality. So when you get in and you do something like Strong Woman and you get obsessed with that, there's like something that you kind of feel like you need to fulfill in yourself with doing that, and then trying to find that avenue in something else completely alien to you is fucking crazy. So how did you find like stepping down? Because I know you took like a 3-year break out, and then you kind of said that you were coming back, and then we built up for it, and then you like you said, you kind of like, actually, you know what, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
So but like how did you find filling that mental void? Because I feel like for like so many people, they rely on that, and that's what they live for. And this pandemic has kind of shown everyone that we kind of need to maybe have something else back there that is
Yeah.
kind of that we're driving towards, because when that's taken away from us, what the fuck are you going to do now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard, and I've probably only really in the last year come to terms with it. And I did have a slip up, and I did, enter the qualifiers and think that I was gonna and so it was actually something that Delroy McQueen, it was something that he said on was it a podcast, or maybe it was I think it was a podcast. And it resonated with me, and it was just like, what are you doing in lockdown? Are you training? Are you worried about losing strength and stuff like that? And he's like, I am not my sport. I am not powerlifting. That doesn't define me. So I'm pretty happy taking all this time out, because I've been fucking doing it for years, and that kind of shit. And I wrote it down. I wrote it down in my diary when I was starting to write things down a lot. I started writing quite a lot of quotes and things that kind of sunk in and that made me feel, which is unusual because not an awful lot makes me feel anything. So yeah, now I'm just trying to remind myself that I am not Jenny Todd's Arnold Amateur Champion. Like, that was me then. That was just something I was doing, but it's not me. So it doesn't matter if I'm not doing Strong Woman anymore. It doesn't fucking matter if I never step foot in a gym again in my life. As long as I'm pursuing something that interests me and stimulates me, whether it's mentally or physically.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I
It's been
absolutely love
fucking
that.
hard. Like, getting there was a tough. It was a tough gig. And that first year of coming out of competing, trying to kind of find my identity or let go of my previous identity, I had a little bit of a breakdown, to be honest, and just kind of disappeared and stopped. It was shit, and I stopped replying to all of my clients. I had online clients relying on me, and I just stopped replying to them. I stopped working. I still went to my job at Spartan, but I just couldn't deal with myself. I couldn't deal with other people, so I just kind of shut myself off from reality and kind of internalized. It was
It's
a
fucking
shit
hard.
time. Yeah, and it doesn't help that I was on gear and I came off gear. I didn't take anything to kind of deal with that. I didn't take any post cycle therapy, so
Which is going to
you
amplify
know
things
I was kind
massively.
of asking for it, and that stuff has a massive knock on your mental health. You feel awesome when you're on it, but you feel like a big bag of shit when you're not on it.
Huge highs and even
Yeah.
fucking lower lows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think whenever you've experienced something like that, I think it forces you to, well, it doesn't force you to, but I think in most cases you have to take a real fucking hard look at yourself, and you have to ask yourself, like, what actually makes me happy? What am I actually getting enjoyment from? What is giving me this kick, and where can I get it from? Obviously not talking about fucking drugs. But like, what can I do to fill that void, and where can I go to? And if it's all you've ever known, do you know what I mean? Like, all these people that just grown up in a gym and they've been in the gym all their life, and they're just surrounded by these people, they're never going to get those fresh new ideas from outside of that environment. So I think it is important, like you kind of talk about, like you doing golf. It's like, if we went back like 7 years ago and we'd talk about you fucking playing golf, I bet everyone would piss themselves laughing, because they'd be like, what the fuck? But like the whole evolution of us and understanding of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
I think that like that in itself is invaluable. So kind of coming out the back end of that, now you're doing a lot of coaching, you're getting your fulfillment from that side of things. Like, do you feel that you can now be, I don't know, be content with that being your connection to the sport still, and allowing you to go and do all these other things without kind of feeling like you've left the sport entirely, as it were?
Yeah. Big yes is the answer to that. So probably it's hard. Like the adrenaline that you get from winning big competitions is incredible, but what I experienced the following year when I was sat at my laptop in the room behind me, watching Donna and my client at the time and my good friend Sonny competing. Donna was at the Arnold Pro and Sonny was competing in my weight category for the same title that I won the year previous. And they both fucking nailed it. And I'm like thousands of miles away at home, just cheering and screaming. I'm a very quiet neighbour. And my neighbours must have thought, what the fuck's going on in that house? Jesus Christ. I was just out of my seat. I was screaming at the screen, and it was just so rewarding to see all of that work and commitment from both of them pay off in such a huge way. And it's not just them, it's not just the big wins, it's the little wins. It's seeing somebody fail a fucking deadlift at the England's qualifiers, and then 10 weeks later pulls it like it's fucking nothing, just out of the blue. I didn't ask her to fucking do it. Yes, Abby, I'm talking about you. She just went in and lifted it like it was butter, and she's like, that's really changed her mentality, and it's really picked her up, and that's what it's all about. That's why I got so addicted to it, because it changed me. It changed who I was, not in a bad way, obviously, but it uplifts. And for a woman to be able to pursue strength and see the changes that it can make to your physical self and your mental self, it's life changing. And it absolutely changed my life. You would not recognize the person I was before I got into lifting. You honestly, you wouldn't. I wouldn't have agreed to do something like this, because I was such a shy and unconfident person. And this is what the sport can do for you. And it's a team effort, and I want to still be part of that team, and I still want to be part of that community, and I want to help other people kick ass and be the strong women that they deserve to be, because it's mint. It's life changing. It's fucking excellent.
It's sick. It's cool. And so I've been a PT working with like general population. So since I was 18, so we're going back like 8 years now. And like, yeah, I completely understand what you mean from that. Like, even just from a gen pop standpoint, when you have someone come in and they're very, very shy and they're very timid, and you start to work with them with weights, and I don't know, you just get them to get underneath a heavy squat or a heavy deadlift for them, which for most people isn't much. It could be like 30, 40, 50 kilos.
Yeah.
You watch them shaking, you watch them struggle, and then you watch them progress. And they come back and they hit that, or they hit a PB, and they just immediately turn around and look at you, and just that fucking look in their eyes where you're like, oh my, like they have felt that, like that drug that I absolutely love. Like I can see it in their eyes. And when you get into coaching, like that's like a whole different thing. So I completely get where you're coming from with that, because you build a relationship, or at least if you're a fucking decent coach, you build a relationship with that person, and then you understand where they're coming from, why they're doing this, what are their motivating factors, and like what is going through their head. And when you learn and you build a connection on that standpoint, and you see them achieve and succeed, you could only feel like a little bit of that yourself, because you understand that you have been a part of that process. And you have helped a shit ton of people get very far, you know, with this sort of stuff. You know, you've programmed, dare I say, probably some of the strongest women on the planet, like especially in these weight categories that have gone on to achieve incredible things. So I find it really interesting. Do you have a formal background in programming, sports science, anything like that?
No, no,
No,
absolutely
no, and
not.
that's why
I
I
have
fucking love this. I
I have
absolutely love this because you've broken the stigma.
qualifications that are pretty much useless. You know, I've got a level 2 fitness instructor certificate. I don't even have a level 3 PT qual. You know, I didn't need it. I just required the tick in the box for my insurance. So I didn't pursue it. It was bollocks. I did my fitness instructor's course, and the fucking woman that was assessing me, I took my friend. My friend broke her back when she was 16. She's got a cage in her spine. So
Casual,
I'm
very
teaching
casual.
her, yeah, you know, the practical examination that you have to go through and you have to tick certain boxes. So I was not comfortable with any of the shit that I had to do because I'm sorry to say it, but, you know, what's it called? Like, what's active IQ? Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
looking at the fucking manual up there.
yeah.
IQ qualifications, they need restructuring. And it's a lot of it is good, but a lot of it is fucking trash. And that's the standard for the industry. You know, no wonder we've got an awful lot of personal trainers in the world doing bad jobs because they've been taught poorly. You know, they've been taught the wrong things. And the most that I've really learned is just through watching YouTube videos from coaches that are in high regard and are experienced massively, not as experienced as these motherfuckers that started this PT qual, but you know they've walked the walk and they've been in the trenches and they've figured everything out themselves through trial and error, not through scientific fucking approaches and data backing things up. But that doesn't matter. That's done in a controlled environment. It doesn't mean anything in reality. To me, it is trial and error. And if somebody who has been working as a strength and conditioning coach for 30, 40, 50 years says that this works, I'm probably going to fucking listen to them and not, you know, the instructors on level 3 personal training courses. But like everything
Yeah,
that I've learned has been through workshops, it's been through watching webinars, recorded seminars on YouTube, reading articles, reading fucking books, and trying stuff on myself, on people that I kind of trust not to fuck it up. And yeah, you know, you just learn through doing. And that I'm not the kind of person to go through further education because I'm not an academic person. I don't retain information very well, which is why this was perfect for me because I was my own subject. And when I started getting into programming, it was through necessity, not desire. So I couldn't afford to pay somebody to do it for me, so I had to learn. And because
perfect.
I was doing it myself and I was feeling it, I then started to understand the process. And I'm a very kinesthetic learner, so by doing I'm learning and it's staying in. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it's
that's
like I'm listening to my own fucking brain. Like it's absolutely crazy hearing you say all that stuff because I completely
yeah,
agree. I completely agree. And yet, like, I love that you bang on the fact that, like, yeah, we are as trainers in an industry that is heavily saturated and getting more saturated every day with incredibly average to poor trainers. And it's because, and I use like the analogy of like driving a car. Like if you learn to drive a car and you're in there with your instructor and whatever, like you build up confidence, you take your test or whatever, and then you pass. And now you've got that bit of paper. Now the real fucking driving starts.
yep,
Because when you're in a hill incline and you've stalled 4 times and you've got 50 cars behind you or bibbing your horn, like no motherfucker's there to save you. You've got to get up
nope,
that hill yourself. And being a PT, I feel like is the exact same. Like you said, it's so easy to go in and pay a couple £100 and do this course and become a personal trainer, which in my opinion right now, like you said, with the active IQ stuff, is basically teaching people how to count like 3 sets of 10 and 12. Like,
yeah,
what the fuck is that? Like, actually do some real learning about energy systems and things that are actually going to benefit these trainers. But when you come out of getting that qualification, that's when you have to spend your time in the trenches. That's when you have to be doing, like you say, you're listening to your webinars, you're listening to your seminars, you're investing, you're reading stuff, because that's where the real learning starts. That's where you get to develop your own coaching personality. Because everyone that comes out of that qualification, it's the same qualification. You've all learned the same shit, which means you can all do the same fucking job. So you now need to distinguish yourself in that avenue that you want to be in, and you have to develop more learning and knowledge like you would do on the roads, and understand how to drive on the motorway and how to drive in inclement weathers and how to do all this other stuff. Like it's so important. So was there anyone for you that you really enjoyed listening to, or you found kind of gave you some, I don't know, profound insights into training? I know you started off on the Jim Wendler 531 program, which is absolutely sick, and Jim's a fucking legend. Obviously had him on the show previously, and has some fantastic, brilliant, very, very true and to the point insights on some training as well, which is always nice. But yeah, was there anyone for you that you really enjoyed listening to, or learning from?
So the one that really stands out to me was Delroy McQueen. Now I've attended 2 of his workshops, and I learned, like, they were both the same, but they weren't. If you listen to the same thing more than once, you'll learn more than you did the first time, so you'll pick up something different. And his method, the McQueen method, was something that I followed for a short while following that as well. I believe I followed his protocol up until it was England's Strongest Woman 2016, I think. There was a max squat, and he discussed wraps. I'd never used wraps before. We discussed things kind of away from the workshop as well. I messaged him, and he gave me an awful lot of insight into how I could bring in wrap squats into my training on top of everything else. And fucking hell, like, following that protocol, following his program, for the squat alone, I put 30 kilos on my squat. Like, that's stupid. Like, these legs are not squatting legs, but that was unbelievable. And it was just, yeah, I'd probably say that the most that I've learned about training, about assessing the compound lifts and linear progression, linear periodization especially, is just a very simple approach, which is the McQueen method. And I think he's an excellent, not just an excellent strength athlete, but he's a wonderful coach as well, and he's very knowledgeable. Like, he's been doing it since the dawn of time, and he's done multiple sports. He's a cool guy. I couldn't just leave it there. There's so many people that I've pulled information from, and there's no one person. I'd probably say, if there is one person, it's somebody who's like a fucking magpie for information. And that was my former employer. I learned a hell of a lot through him, seeing his programs written every single day, and that was my script. That was my script for work. So I'm repeating all of this stuff, but I'm retaining a lot of information as well, and I'm seeing the results coming in, and I'm seeing his methods. I mean, I worked for him for 4 years. I learned a fuck ton from him. So let's change it. I'm going to go back and say the one person that has probably made the biggest impact on my coaching education was Jack Lovett.
Sick. That's very, very cool. Yeah. Both absolute geniuses in their own right. And no one really knew this, but I got into strongman like 2017. Won my first novice comps there. Then 2018 went into inters, won my inters comps there. I was meant to go into opens last year, and Delroy has been doing all of my programming. So Delroy was doing everything behind the scenes. I had him on for a podcast in the early days of setting this up. And like, I spoke to him, I was like, this guy just knows so much shit, and like, he's just so brilliant and concise and to the point. And he's like, he's one of those cool cats that like doesn't need to say more than he needs to say,
Nah.
It's like listening to fucking Master Yoda. Honestly, it's like every single word has its place, and you're like, if Delroy says it, I'm gonna do it. And yeah, like it was brilliant because I came from doing like really basic static stuff, and I remember like the first program he was getting me to do, like bear crawls and all this random functional stuff, and I was like, Delroy, what the fuck is this? Like, what is going on with all these crawls? And then yeah, I came into doing my events training, and I was like, holy shit, I'm so strong now. Like, where has this come from? And it's like, yeah, just all these different adaptations. Like, you cannot put a price on the knowledge that these people have attained over the years, because you have to remember is that when you're learning from these people is that you are getting the compact compounded version of everything they've known, because they're not giving you all the fluff and bullshit that they've had to throw out of their programs in the last 20 years. They're just giving you the gold. They're giving you the fucking gold that works. And as a trainer, then when you do that with someone else and they see that, they're like, is this person God? Like, how are you getting these results? And you're like, nah, not me. Like, I'm just doing my shit, you know? Yeah, it's a bit crazy.
It is. Yeah, that's a good point. You know, these people have been on Earth for a lot longer than you and I have. You know, you're even younger than me. Are you 26?
Yeah,
You've been
yeah,
coaching for
26
8
going on
years,
46, yeah.
God damn. But you know, the amount of years that these other guys have been doing it for, it's condensed, it's compact, and they've picked the gold from everything that they've learned over the years. So it's very easy to get better at your game because there's just so much information in abundance around us, and we're surrounded by a lot of very generous and very modest people who might seemingly look quite intimidating, but if you were to just reach out to them, they're more than happy to help. And it's incredible, you know, how the generosity that these world-class coaches have. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of blessed because, you know, I'm so fucking happy that we brought up a point about like the formal education stuff, because I think like now more than ever where people are more and more, I think people are beginning to doubt the impact of having like a university degree coming into certain industries, especially like this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important to note that like, if you spend your time in the trenches, like if you go on YouTube and you go on Google and you go on like these very fucking basic search engines and you start researching this sort of stuff, you can accumulate more than a university degree's worth of knowledge on any one particular subject, because there is so much information out there and people are putting stuff out on the internet every single day, trying to get the advantage over people, trying to gain more subscribers, giving you more in-depth, better analysis, higher analysis, like of all of this different stuff. So if you spend your time, you can fucking learn pretty much anything you want on YouTube and Google. So do you need to be getting like 43 grand in debt to go and do this sports science degree when we could be learning from all these sports scientists that have YouTube channels and podcasts and they're giving away all this shit for free and they're not giving you all the buffer stuff that you don't need to know? And I think like you are like the living embodiment of that. Like when you can do that sort of stuff and work with such high class athletes that you do, it just goes to show like a lot of this stuff I feel is overrated.
Massively so. Shit. Oh, if I could turn back time and not have wasted my fucking time and money doing that certification, I would have. But you know, it had its reason, and it's required for me to have insurance. So, ugh, I just don't know why that's an industry standard. It's like, oh, shit.
It's a low barrier for entry, so then those guys can make money. But let's not get into to all of that sort of shit. Otherwise, we're going to get down a really, really, really deep rabbit hole. But I'm going to wrap it up. You know, I wrap up the podcast the same way with absolutely everyone because I find it's a very, very interesting insight into everyone's brains. I want you to imagine for a quick sec that you are stepping into a time machine. You're going back in time. You get to visit yourself 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age, you know, like lots and lots of stuff to happen in your life. you have all of this knowledge, you get to spend a few moments with them. What wisdom do you impart? What mantra to live by do you give to your younger self? Like, what do you say to help your younger self get through all of like this crazy shit that you know is going to come in your life?
Well, I've thought about this because, as you know, I've listened to a few of your podcasts before I came on here, which is just as well, because otherwise you would have stumped me with that. I'd probably say just keep doing what makes you happy, because it works out in the end. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you're pursuing happiness, what bad can happen?
You always win, right? It's a win-win situation.
Be fucking kind, do what makes you happy, and it's all good, man.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I love that. That's so sick. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute fucking pleasure. Absolutely awesome. And when the world gets back to reality and expos happen and events happen, I'm sure at some point, hopefully, we can catch up in person because
absolutely,
that'll be
great
ace.
to meet
That'll
you,
be
man.
ace. Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much.